Hello guys, we're going to start in a few minutes time, in actual fact 30 seconds time. This is going to be an informational video on the e-fitting tool, not the basic stuff, I hope that you can already use it or have it, the advanced stuff covering damage profiles, character implants, boosters, wormhole effects, projected effects, fleet squad boosts, and DPS graphs to simulate battles and damage. So let's start and let's have a little look at the e-fitting tool. Standard e-fitting tool, you should have made your own ships up. In a more basic class I would have covered that. But for an advanced class, let's pretend, and let's start off with damage profiles. Let's pretend we want to do Sancha hubs, a very common thing that all of us want to do. So, I have a Dominix that I use, so I'll load up my Dominix fit. And have a little look at it. I have to load my pilot in. Obviously update my API, you should always do that every single time. There we are. Now, on the basis of it, I know you need 400 defense to be able to tank a Sancha hub, but on the basis of it, I don't have 400 defense. I have a nice DPS, but not much defense. But that's because I haven't got a damage profile loaded. And if you right-click on the defense tab, you can actually load up different damage profiles. Now, unfortunately, it starts with none. You have to make your own. You have to edit custom profile, and you need to add whichever race you're fighting against. For example, Sancha's Nation only does EM and thermal damage. Very slight kinetic and explosive, negligible almost. So, many websites, for example, UniWiki, here I've loaded it up, all you have to do is search for rat damage types, and you can find exactly what each rat damage type does. For example, as I said, Sancha will do EM and thermal, 53% EM, 47% thermal. So in my e-fitting tool, 53% EM, 47% thermal. So now, if I load that up by right-clicking and clicking Sancha's Nation, it's only considering my defense in EM and thermal in those ratios. It's ignoring my explosive defense. I could have loads of explosive hardeners and that wouldn't raise my overall defense because it's only looking for those damage profiles. In which case I now have 413 damage per second against Sancha's Nation, and that's reasonable enough tank, I've found in my experience, to be able to handle hubs with my ship. Admittedly, I also have a lot of damage, so I kill the ships quick enough for them to not be able to overwhelm my defense. And that's really important. It's vital in actual fact. For example, my extra tanked Sancha's hubs, when I go on a Sancha prison camp, I use extra tank because the damage is increased, has 834 using the Sancha's Nation's profile. Uniform damage is just 285 if it was 25% damage to each of my 4 damage types. But I've concentrated on exactly what I need, which is Sancha's Nation. So definitely add your own custom profiles. Again, Serpentis, for example, is 55% thermal, 45% kinetic, and my tank would not be as effective against Serpentis. In actual fact, my EM hardener, if I take it off, is wasted. It doesn't make no difference at all. But if I did a kinetic hardener versus Serpentis, which I shall quickly do, bam, my tank increases because it's specifically designed to counter Serpentis in that case. I'll just re-put on back on my EM hardener. Now, that's very basic, and that is the most basic part of my thing today, really. That is something that everyone should be doing for all their fits. And as you can see, I have Serpentis, Rogue Drone, Angel, and Sancha. And if I thought anyone else, I would add that on there as well. Right, that's stage 1. What I want to teach next is character implants. Again, incredibly important. Do not neglect your implants. I have implants in my character. They're very, very cheap. If you're going around in a ship worth 200, 300, my ship's worth 250 million. If you neglect these implants, then that is a real shame. Even in nullsec, as long as you're not going in PvP fleet, it's worthwhile, and even in certain PvP ships you want these implants. So, you can actually represent implants on e-fitting tool. Now unfortunately they don't download with your API. You must go to the character editor, you find your character, click the implants tab, and you can add all the different implants you have for your character. Now I typically have 3. I have one in slot 6, I have the RS603. I'll expand that a little bit so we can see it. Now the RS603 is about 10 million, maybe even 20 million, 3% reduction in repair system's duration. So as soon as I add the implant to my character, my tank has increased to 860. I also do have one in slot 7, I have evasive manoeuvring 703, because that will increase my manoeuvrability for my interceptors, which I do like to fly, but it also decreases my line time, which is important in any case. And that's cheap, 703, reduces by 0.4 of a second, and you won't believe when you need that. And finally I do have RP903, and again that is repair proficiency, and it should increase my tank somewhat by another 3%, so 885. Much better boost. Now I actually have 2 characters created. I'm going to remove these implants from this character, because I actually do have 2 characters created. I have one with no implants for my PvP character, and you'll notice there's a character called Spos with implants, which has the implants already added. And so I can load up Spos with implants when I find him. There we are. Make sure I update his API as well, and it'll include my implant bonuses. And I change that. If I do have different implants in, which I do have sometimes, I will change that on e-fitting tool, because I want to know exactly what my ship is doing. Now, next step, we're going to go into boosters and wormhole effects. A lot of people don't use boosters, but they're incredibly useful, because boosters, while they're illegal at the advanced level in the game, if you're in nullsec, there's no one to catch you. And in certain ship builds, it's huge. We'll consider my Myrmidon, my PvP Myrmidon. Triple armor repair Myrmidon, very, very common ship. Active tank PvP Spos. Triple armor repairers. You notice by the way I station the armor repairers buffered between other items, so that if I overload them or overheat them, they don't damage each other and burn out as quick. Must load on my character, Spos with implants, and you'll notice Spos without implants, 714, Spos with implants an extra 50 damage per second. This is just uniform damage. Now, for some reason I can't fly it. Oh, heavy drone operation, ignoring the fact that I actually haven't got heavy drones. Bam. Not really interested in the DPS anyway. So, what do the boosters do? Click the booster tab at the bottom. I have no boosters at the moment installed on my character, but a cheap one, 1 million ISK. 1 million ISK, and this is legal in high sec actually, you can buy it almost any station, is the synth types of boosters. If I go to the boosters tab rather than searching for it, slot 1, synth exile booster, increases your armor repair by 3%. Bam, a little bit more armor repair, no side effects. And I'm simulating it in an e-fitting tool. If I was in a PvP fleet for 1 million ISK, my ammo's worth less than that. I might carry that around to give me a little extra boost. But what you'll really notice happens is standard implants. Now, boosters. Standard boosters give you 10% performance increase. I believe it's even 10%. It might even be more. 20%. My mistake. 20% armor improvement. It does have side effects, and my character is not beefed against the side effects, but e-fitting tool will represent the side effects as well. And it has a 30% chance of having 20% chance of having each of these side effects. So you could have all 4, you could have none. You don't know. So if I put a standard exile booster on, my armor tank goes up to 910. 20% armor increase, and that is even more beneficial on your Dominic's battleship. I've gone into a Sancha hub, I'm scrammed by rats. About the last 15 minutes, and can be extended longer with skills. I'm surrounded by rats, they're starting to break my tank. I'm screwed. Oh no, well thank goodness I bought a 10mm, standard is 10mm. I bought a 10mm blueprint, a booster, I never use it. I've got it for an emergency. Oh no, it's an emergency now. Someone's hot dropped me, may as well use it. I'm being overwhelmed and I'm scrammed, may as well use it. My tank has now increased to 1001. Now, it is simulating all the negatives, minus 20% armour. Okay, that's irrelevant, I'm armour tanking actively. It's simulating minus 20% tracking, plus 20% explosive radius, and minus 20% capacitor. Obviously, they can be reduced, and you can also simulate switching them off in the fitting tool if you wish. And obviously, as well, if you have better nanite control or neurotoxin recovery, those effects will affect you less and less. For example, if I had nanite control 5, it would only be 15% per one I have, and neurotoxin recovery, I believe, it reduces the chances of it affecting you, while biology increases the length of the booster. But for 10 million ISK, some of you piloting 500 million ISK, 1 billion ISK ships, and you can get a 20% armor boost for 15, and it's same. There's also shield boosts, obviously. There's tracking reducers, damage increases, stuff like that. Look into them. Think about carrying them with you, because they will save your life someday. That's boosts. Now wormhole effects as well. Wormholes are awesome to go into. Do not ever forget to consider the effects of the wormholes, and once again, e-fitting tool can simulate that. Down the side here, you can see all the options, and I've got to find it. Environmental effects. For example, let's have a little consider. The Wolf Riot effect in certain wormholes will increase your armour. So, if I drag that into projected effects, which is a projected effect from the wormhole, my armour rate, repair rate would go to 1244. For an armour tank, that's awesome. You'll find that the Wolf Rhino would actually reduce your shield resistances, and it has, to almost nothing. So if you know what wormhole you're going into, you can prepare a ship accordingly. I would go into a Wolf Rhino with a ship like this, or a PvP ship like my Myrmidon. There we are, because its tank becomes immense. However, I would not go in with my Pulsar, because a Pulsar reduces armour and increases shield, and my shield is an armour tank. But I'm simulating this on the fitting tool. There's obviously a few wormholes which increase damage, range, and damage type. Magnetar, for example, would increase your damage, I believe, with hybrid turrets. Yes, it does. In particular for the Dominics, very nice damage increase. Even if you're not PvPing in wormholes, but you're going to go and fight the sleepers, you want to have the right ship and maximising the bonus the wormhole gives, because they will be, and beware that they will be affected by these results equally, and if they do more damage, you've got to make sure you can counter that damage. There are some wormholes that reduce drones, and as such, look them up before you go into a wormhole. And not all wormholes have effects. Once again, simulated on e-fitting tool. Now, projected effects, very important. Let's consider Guardian. Now, Guardian is a logistics ship, and it's commonly used in PvP. It's a good ship. Let's put an all level 5 character. No, actually, let's put myself on there. Ignoring the fact that I don't have the cruiser level 5, I do have logistics 4. And you'll notice there is such animosity between level 4 pilot, logistics level 4, and logistics level 5, and here's the reason why. I'm not cap stable. 19 seconds capacitor balance, because the Guardian is designed to actually have a partner. And if I have a partner and I can project the effect effectively on myself, imagine I had another duplicate of myself who was projecting this effect on him, and I drag the skill, in this case the power projector, down here into projected effects, and I now have increased my own capacitor, or my partner would increase my capacitor, that lasts 53 seconds. That's not good enough. it needs both to become cap stable. However, and this is why people do want Logistics 5 in their fleets, if I had Logistics 5, I will become cap stable with just one partner who's also Logistics 5, and we'll just cap stable each other with one projector, and the other projector can be given to the fleet, can be given to anyone else who needs it. And in incursions and in some PvP fleets, they're very particular about that because they want to maximise their effects. They want to use that extra projector rather than having to balance the cap. I'm going to change my skill back, but that's very important. Now, this does not just apply to power transfer. If I was to load up a Kiri's, an ECM ship, in actual fact a target disrupting ship, pretend I'm piloting it. Now, you will find that ECM or electronic attack ships have told to target enemy logistics, and this is why. This logistics ship has a range of 71 and a targeting of 130 kilometers. However, I can project the effects from one ship onto another. If I put all three of my tracking disruptors with a tracking range dampening script onto the Guardian, I would reduce its targeting range to 30 kilometers. Which means it would have to get close to target, and typically they orbit the enemy, or trying to escape the battle about 40-50 kilometers away. He would not be able to target any combat ships. Interestingly, that might not be as most effective. If we look at his target, let's pretend he was in a battlecruiser fight. He locks battlecruiser in 2.1 seconds. If I was to actually put on scan resolution dampening scripts, 1, 2, 3, I would increase his lock time to 9 seconds on a battlecruiser, 11 seconds on a cruiser, reducing its effectiveness. This is something to think about and consider in your ships. How effective are your scan resolution and target dampening scripts? And a lot of people just add them onto the ship, but they can never notice what it does. You need to have another ship loaded up and project the effects onto it to see its effect. And that's really worth doing, because in my case here, I know I need really all three, because 2 on a Guardian, 2 wouldn't reduce its range enough to really make it completely ineffective. On 1, definitely wouldn't reduce its range enough. So I know I need to probably put all 3 onto a Guardian. However, if I was to switch to an Aura, what are they called? Augmenters, that's it, Augura. I might actually find it's got a much less target range in the first place. So I would find that if I was to encounter them, 2 would definitely reduce it enough, 24 kilometers. And if I put all 3 onto it, I'll reduce it down to 18 kilometers target range. In which case, that's a slightly different situation. But I'm learning from this. I'm getting some ideas. It works again with target painters. You can see how much the signature increases. It works with a lot of factors. Projected effects, very useful. Right, fleet and squad boosts. Once again, let's call up my Guardian. And the Guardian's in a fleet, we're going to pretend. I'm just going to make him all level 5. The Guardian's in a fleet, and he's going to be in a fleet with my Astarte, my command ship, which I shall be piloting. Now, first of all, if I was just in a fleet with him, I was just in a normal ship, I can actually put right click here, squad commander, bonuses from character, bonuses from SPOS, and you'll notice his targeting range will increase, as well as his armour, his effective hit points. Okay? Because I have a 10% bonus to armour, shields, targeting, and evasive and manoeuvrability. I'll show you without. There you go, 10.9 line time, width, 9.8 line time, as well as other boosts. And that's just simulating a squad commander of all level 5 skills. Obviously there are additional boosts. For example, this ship here, the command ship, has an armoured warfare link of passive defence, only level 1, but still, that increases his armour resists. I can simulate that in this game. by right-clicking bonus from the ship itself, the fleet commander. Oh, not even, or a squad commander, it does not matter, but bonus from the ship itself, and you'll see my resists have increased significantly, and effectively my effective hit points have increased by another 5,000. Now there are different armoured warfare modules, for example not just passive defence, but I could have rapid repair. Rapid repair, the capacitor jump down, because I've added that to this ship, that increases the cycle time, or decreases rather, the cycle time of all of these repairers. They now cycle in 4.5 seconds, 4.58 instead of 5 seconds. That's why the capacitor decreases, because it's cycling quicker. Likewise, I could simulate having damage control, which actually reduces the capacitor need for armour repairers. And you'll see as I turn it off, it would be 9.4 on this ship, and when I turn it on, it goes down to 8.7. Finally, obviously, you can simulate all the other armoured warfare, or even skirmish warfare, siege warfare modules. For example, you can see how much does this ship affect this ship's warp scramble range, or warp disrupt range. And you can really start working a complicated fleet together. I'm just going to switch this back to my standard passive defence. Now that's fleet and squad boosts. It's worthwhile looking at because they will affect your ship. No bonuses. It's always worth, if possible, having a bonus, even from just a character, even just for the align time. Finally, DPS graphs, probably the most interesting part. I've saved to last. Let's consider a battle. Megaphron sniper, Megaphron Navy issue sniper. There he is. Verse with my skills. There he is. He's going to be versing a Tyrannus, an interceptor. I try and teach this to all my new members quite often. You never head straight towards target. We're going to look at that right now. Let me load this on. That seems like a standard Tyrannus fit. Fast. Hardly any hit points at all. Tries to get to his target as quick as possible to tackle him. He's a tackler. This is a sniping ship. It's got huge range. That's with antimatter charges. If it would use its typical charges, say iridium, it's got 102 range with a 19 targeting range. In actual fact, they probably would use lead. Now, let's consider the battle, and this is how you can simulate a battle on the fitting tool. New DPS graph. Get a bit bigger because we want to see it. Add an attacker. We're going to pretend the Megaphon's going to shoot the Tyrannus. Add the target, Tyrannus. They're both heading towards each other at 100% of their velocity, and you can see their velocity is indicated here. In actual fact, let's make it more realistic. The sniping ship may be going at an angle. Yeah? You can immediately see as soon as that sniping ship, if they're heading towards each other, let's try and get that back there. There you go. If they're heading towards each other, the Megaphon will be doing 500 damage per second at 25 kilometers, and it'd still be doing 280 damage per second at 85 kilometers. And this is what this graph is showing, basically distance on the bottom, damage on the side. He would typically be going stationary, so I'll set his velocity at 0 if I can. As close to 0 as I can. I wonder if you can right click it. There you go, 3%. Now, this is why the Tyrannus does not want to head directly towards the Megaphon, because it would be taking a huge amount of damage. Even at 80 kilometers, it would be taking 200 damage per second. And since it's only got an effective hit point of 4,000, it would die in a matter of 10 seconds, possibly 2 volleys. If I go at slight angle, even just a slight angle, notice, the simple as this, the Megaphon cannot hit me. That's only a real slight angle, 5 degrees, 5 degrees. At 125, he'd actually hit me for 16 damage per second, but he'd hardly hit me at all. He might hit me for a small 1 damage per second at 40 kilometers for a split second before I get closer. But this is why transversal and angle is so huge. Even at just a slight change, really reduces to 65 damage per second. really reduces the damage, which is why you never head straight towards a ship when you're in a frigate. You can also obviously simulate other effects. For example, if I turned off my micro warp drive, my speed would decrease, therefore Dominic's would actually be able to hit me a lot more reliable. Now, Tyrannus is a special case because the Tyrannus has a special role. It has a 15% reduction per skill level in micro warp drive signature penalty. Some other ships you'll find actually if you turn on your micro warp drive, you'll actually take more damage because you'll be easier to hit, and this graph will simulate it again. I mean, for example, my tracking skills with gunneries are not that good. If I was an all level 5 character, you'd find he'd be able to hit me a lot more effectively, even if I was going at a slight angle, because he's got better trajectory analysis. But again, you can simulate in this. We'll consider, for example, one last fight, Tyrannus versus Tyrannus, which you can load up 2 Tyrannuses, slightly different fits, but that does not matter. In actual fact, you don't even need to load up 2, you can use the same one. DPS graph, the attacker's going to be the Tyrannus, and the defender's going to be Tyrannus. Make it a bit bigger for us. So, you can see at large range would hardly hit each other and do any damage. This is drone damage, by the way. That's why it extends so far away, because the drones, it has quite a large drone control range. But ignoring the drone damage, in actual fact, turn that off. I would drone. There you go. So, like a nice curve graph. If we were heading towards each other, we'd be doing 170 damage to each other. If one was to head upwards, and the other was to head towards, it'd be doing that much damage, 35 damage per second. One was to head up and the other was to head down, you'd hardly hit each other because of your speed. I've got my micro warp on, yes. If you was both heading in the same direction, then your speeds effectively cancel each other out, and you can see I'd increase my damage again. It's well worth looking and studying this graph when you're looking at your ships, when you're thinking, make a big ship, fight it against a frigate, see, can I actually hit that frigate at all? Make a big ship, fight it against another big ship, and think, can I actually hit the big ship at all? You'd be surprised. That's going to conclude, really, my training on the advanced e-fitting tool. Just worthwhile thinking about the bigger kit picture. I hope that helped anyone that listened. If you want any more advice or any comments, please mail me in-game. Or say hi. Thank you very much.